You ever walk away from a conversation with someone you care about and something just feels off? They smiled, they laughed, they said all the right words. But deep down, you know something's wrong. Today, I'm going to show you the quiet signs that someone close to you may secretly dislike you, because when you can spot them early, you can protect your peace. And that's worth more than any fake friendship. You ever notice how some people are all about you until you actually need something from them? It's like they've got this invisible contract in their head. They're happy to be around when things are light, easy, and convenient. But the moment there's weight involved, the moment you need them to show up, suddenly they're busy, unavailable, or they hit you with that, "Oh man, I wish I could" line. That's what I mean by support feeling conditional. Now, let me be clear. Nobody can be available all the time. Life happens. People have their own responsibilities. But there's a big difference between someone who occasionally can't make it and someone who consistently disappears when the stakes are real. The person I'm talking about is perfectly fine helping you move a couch when there's pizza after, but they're nowhere to be found when you're in the middle of a real life crisis. What's tricky is they'll still act like they're a supportive friend. They'll send you a quick thinking of you text or hit you with a "keep me posted" just so they look caring from the outside. But you'll notice they don't actually do anything. They give just enough to maintain the appearance of closeness without putting in the effort closeness requires. Here's how you can feel it. Think about the last few times you reached out in a vulnerable moment. Did they lean in or did they dodge? Did they listen without distraction, or did they somehow shift the conversation back to them? The pattern tells the truth. You can't judge someone's loyalty by how they act when everything's good. You judge it by how they respond when things get messy. And let's be honest, it's not just about big life events. It's about the little moments too. Say you're excited about something you're working on and you share it with them. Do they genuinely engage? Ask follow-up questions, encourage you, or do they give you that polite, "oh, nice," and move on? That's still a form of conditional support. They show interest only when it fits their mood or agenda. What makes this hard to spot is the guilt they can make you feel for even noticing it. They might play it off as you being too sensitive or expecting too much. But think about it. You're not asking for constant attention. You're asking for basic reciprocity. Real friends, real loved ones don't keep a mental scorecard. They don't pick and choose moments based on convenience. Sometimes this conditional support is rooted in jealousy. They'll be all over you when you're struggling because it makes them feel better about themselves. But when you start doing well, suddenly they're distant or they downplay your progress. Other times it's just plain selfishness. They want the benefits of closeness without the responsibilities that come with it. And here's where you need to trust yourself. Your gut knows when someone is genuinely in your corner. You know the difference between a "sorry, I can't," that's real, and one that's just an excuse to avoid effort. You know when you're being valued versus when you're being managed. The reality is, if someone's love or friendship comes with fine print, it's not love or friendship. It's a transaction. And you deserve more than that. You deserve people who stand with you when it's sunny and when it's storming, people who don't treat your needs like an inconvenience. So when you notice someone's support always has conditions, don't ignore it and don't explain it away. Because the sooner you see it for what it is, the sooner you can stop pouring your energy into someone who's only holding a cup when they're thirsty. There's a certain kind of person who will never openly say they don't like you, but they'll make sure you feel it in small doses. They wrap their dislike in humor, in "just kidding" moments, in compliments that don't quite land the way a compliment should. You know the type. You get a "wow, you actually look good today," or "you're pretty smart for someone who," and then they laugh, waiting for you to laugh along. And if you don't, they hit you with "relax, I'm just messing with you." That's the thing about backhanded compliments. They're like tiny paper cuts. One by itself might not hurt much, but over time, they add up. And here's what makes them dangerous. They give the other person deniability. They can always claim they were just joking, or you're taking things too seriously, while still getting to slip in the jab they wanted to say in the first place. Pay attention to the pattern. Do they consistently give compliments that have a sting at the end? Do they point out your mistakes in a way that feels more like a dig than genuine feedback? A healthy friend or loved one will celebrate you without needing to undercut you. Someone who secretly resents you can't resist adding that little twist, because the compliment isn't about making you feel good. It's about keeping you in check. Here's the subtle part. Sometimes these remarks are so socially acceptable, they slide under the radar. They might compliment your outfit, but follow it up with, "It's way better than what you usually wear." They might praise something you did and then compare it to a past failure, almost like they want to remind you you're not that good. When this happens, notice how your body reacts before your brain does. You might feel a small drop in your stomach, a tightness in your chest, or just that instinctive "something's off" feeling. You can't always explain it in words, but you know the tone wasn't as kind as the words wanted you to believe. That's your gut telling you the truth. Sometimes they'll do it in front of other people, which makes it even clearer. They'll disguise their put downs as funny stories about you, exaggerating details or highlighting embarrassing moments, all while acting like they're just keeping the mood light. And if you push back, they'll make you look like the one who can't take a joke. It's a way to chip away at your confidence without ever having to take responsibility for it. You'll also notice that their timing is strategic. They slip in these digs right after you've had a win. Maybe you got a promotion, started a new relationship, or accomplished a goal. Instead of joining in your excitement, they'll make a remark that subtly shifts the focus from your success to your flaws. It's a quiet way of saying, "Don't get too comfortable up there." This is why backhanded compliments can be more toxic than direct criticism. At least with direct criticism, you know where you stand. With this, you're left second guessing yourself, wondering if you're overreacting, wondering if maybe they really were just being funny. That confusion is part of the design. The truth is, people who care about you don't need to dress up their digs as jokes. They don't need to lace their praise with a reminder of your failures. Real friends will build you up without making you feel small in the process. If someone close to you can't give you a clean, honest compliment without adding a little poison to it, that's not lighthearted teasing. That's resentment leaking through. So the next time you hear one of those, "just kidding," lines that doesn't actually feel like a joke, don't laugh just to keep the peace. Because every time you pretend it's harmless, you're teaching them it's okay to disrespect you in disguise. One of the clearest signs someone secretly hates you is how they react when life doesn't go your way. It's subtle, but if you watch closely, you'll see it. You share bad news. Maybe a project fell through, a relationship ended, or you made a mistake. And instead of genuine empathy, there's a flicker of something else. Maybe it's the tiniest smirk. Maybe it's an almost unnoticeable spark in their eyes. Maybe it's the way they start asking questions that dig deeper into your failure instead of lifting you up. They might not throw a party over your problems, but they'll lean in to hear all the details, like your misfortune is their entertainment. They'll mask it well. Sometimes they'll even say all the right words. "That's so tough." Or, "I'm sorry you're going through that." But the tone doesn't match the words. There's no warmth behind it, no real concern. It's more like they're checking a box so they don't look bad. And if you pay attention, you'll notice they have more energy in conversations about your setbacks than they do in conversations about your successes. Here's the thing. Real friends, real loved ones, they're with you when you're up and when you're down. They're not jealous of your wins, and they're not secretly pleased by your losses. But someone who harbors resentment toward you. They see your failure as proof they're right about you. It validates whatever negative story they've been telling themselves. It's not just in what they say, it's in how quickly they respond. If you're struggling, they might suddenly become available to talk, even when they normally don't have time. They're eager now because your low moment puts you in a position they're comfortable with. It makes them feel a little taller without them having to climb. Sometimes it's even more obvious. They'll drop phrases like, "Well, that's life," or "Gwis, you learned your lesson," almost as if they're happy you got knocked down a peg. And in those moments, you realize their version of support isn't about lifting you up. It's about watching you get humbled. This can also show up in the way they share your news. Ever notice how quickly some people spread word of your failures compared to your victories? You tell them something personal and suddenly you're hearing it back from other people, twisted, exaggerated, maybe even framed in a way that makes you look worse. But when you achieve something great, that news somehow never travels as fast. That's not an accident. That's preference. Another layer to this is how they handle comparison. Let's say you're in a similar field or pursuing similar goals. When you struggle, they might frame it as healthy competition or make comments that subtly remind you they're doing better. When you succeed, they find ways to poke holes in it. But when you fail, they're full of advice. Even if it's condescending, it's not guidance meant to help you grow. It's guidance meant to keep you where you are. This is why it's so important to watch people's energy, not just their words. Anyone can send a "hope you're okay" text, but who actually shows up with genuine concern without using your pain as a private victory? Who's there to encourage you without slipping in an "I told you so"? The truth is, when someone celebrates your setbacks, even quietly, even secretly, they've already decided they don't want you to win. And if they don't want you to win, they're not really on your team. You might share laughs, memories, and time with them, but underneath it, there's a layer of satisfaction every time you stumble. And that's not someone you can trust with your future. Because if your failure makes them happy, your success will always make them miserable. One of the most telling signs someone secretly dislikes you is how they handle including you in their world. Or more accurately, how they don't. You start to notice little patterns, group hangouts you weren't told about, conversations that go quiet the second you walk inside jokes that everyone else gets except you. At first, you might brush it off as bad timing. Maybe they forgot to invite you. Maybe you just happened to miss the conversation. But when it happens again and again, it's not an accident. It's intentional. The thing about subtle exclusion is that it rarely looks aggressive from the outside. They won't blatantly say, "We didn't want you there." Instead, they'll leave just enough doubt so you question yourself. "Oh, it was last minute." Or, "I didn't think you'd want to come." Or, "It was just a small thing, nothing big." But funny enough, it's always last minute. When it comes to you, it's always nothing big until you see the pictures later and realize it was big, just not for you. Exclusion is one of the quietest forms of rejection, and it's often used by people who don't want to confront their feelings directly. They get to create distance without ever having to say why. And because they leave the door open for excuses, it makes you feel like maybe you're overreacting. That self-doubt is exactly what keeps you from calling it out. It's not just about parties or dinners either. It's about the everyday conversations you're left out of. Maybe the group starts making plans in a text thread you're not on. Maybe decisions get made without your input, even though they affect you. Or maybe they talk about shared experiences right in front of you, making it clear you weren't part of them. The message is the same. We don't see you as part of this. What makes this sting more than outright conflict is that it's passive. They're not fighting you. They're just erasing you from parts of their life. And because it's quiet, you're left wondering if you're imagining it. But here's the truth. Real friends don't accidentally forget to include you over and over. People who care about you make space for you. They remember you when they're making plans. They want you in the room. Sometimes exclusion is used as a way to control you. If they sense you've upset them or stepped out of line, suddenly you're not invited to things for a while. It's like a punishment. They withhold their presence and your access to the group as a way to make you feel the loss. This isn't friendship, it's emotional manipulation. And here's the other layer. Exclusion doesn't just make you feel unwanted, it makes you feel replaceable. They might invite someone else into the space you used to occupy, and it's their way of sending the message that you're not as important as you thought you were. That's a power move, and it's one people use when they're holding on to resentment or dislike they don't want to voice. The temptation in these moments is to try harder, to insert yourself into their plans, to joke about not being invited in hopes they'll feel bad. But people who exclude you on purpose don't change because you remind them you want to be included. If anything, that just confirms to them that they can control how you feel. So instead of chasing those invitations, Pay attention to who naturally makes space for you, who lights up when you walk in, who texts you first when something's happening, who makes sure you're in the picture instead of finding out about it later. That's where your energy belongs. Because if you keep fighting for a seat at a table where they keep pulling the chair away, you'll never notice the tables where people are already saving you a spot. Sometimes the truth about how someone feels isn't in what they say, it's in what their body says when they're around you. Words are easy to control. People can smile, compliment you, and act interested. But the body slips. And when someone secretly hates you, their body language almost always gives them away. You can feel it before you even consciously notice it. You walk into a room and there's a shift. Their shoulders tense. Their smile looks like it was switched on too late. Their eyes meet yours, but only for a second before darting away. It's not always dramatic. In fact, the subtlety is what makes it so telling. They're not trying to be cold. They're just not able to fully fake warmth. Watch for the way they position themselves. People who genuinely enjoy your company tend to lean in when you talk. Their body opens up toward you. Their arms are relaxed. Their feet point in your direction. Their gestures feel natural. But someone who's hiding dislike will often do the opposite without even realizing it. Crossed arms, angled away, creating physical barriers like holding a phone in front of them or keeping a bag between you. It's their subconscious way of keeping distance. Even their touch or lack of it says something. Maybe they used to hug you, pat you on the back, or give you that friendly nudge during a laugh. Now it's gone, or it's replaced by the bare minimum, a quick, obligatory handshake. If that physical warmth disappears because emotional warmth is already gone, facial expressions are another giveaway. The easiest one to spot is the smile that doesn't reach the eyes. The mouth forms the right shape, but the eyes stay flat, or maybe the smile is too quick, like they're checking off a box, and it vanishes before you've even finished saying hello. And then there's the micro expression, that tiny flash of annoyance, contempt, or disinterest before they put the mask back on. You might not even catch it fully, but you'll feel it. Tone of voice is part of body language too. Even when the words are neutral, the delivery changes. The pitch might be slightly higher, the pace quicker, or the emphasis just a bit off. It's the kind of thing you pick up on when you know someone well. You've heard their genuine voice enough times to recognize when it's missing. Here's the thing. One-off moment doesn't mean someone hates you. People have bad days, get distracted, feel stressed. But when these signals become consistent, when they show up every time you're around, that's when it starts telling the real story. Sometimes they overcompensate. If they're worried their true feelings might show, they might try too hard. Extra wide smiles, exaggerated enthusiasm, bigger gestures than necessary. It's like they're performing friendship instead of living it. And the performance feels off. It's not something you can always explain logically, but you can sense when the energy doesn't match the words. This is why trusting your instincts matters. We're wired to pick up on nonverbal cues long before we can articulate them. If you keep leaving interactions feeling like something's wrong, if you notice your own body tensing up in response to theirs, pay attention. Your nervous system often catches what you're